The Simpsons could address a common criticism by committing to the time jump from season 36's finale, but it would come at some serious cost to the show's best qualities. The Simpsons has visited potential futures in the past, showcasing possible endings for the titular family and Springfield at large. However, season 36's finale, Is Stranger Things, has generated extra attention by introducing a timeline where Marge passes away and the family splinters apart. It's a radical change that will inevitably be undone by a return to the purposefully static continuity of the show. The ageless quality is a big component of The Simpsons becoming such an enduring fixture of the television landscape. The latest hop to the future presents an interesting possibility, however, given the time skip that takes place. More or less treating Bart and Lisa as their realistic ages, The Simpsons presents a version of itself that could generate fresh storytelling beats in a more painfully grounded and satirical setting. It's an interesting, hypothetical approach to the future of The Simpsons, even if it never comes to be. The Simpsons' newest timeline would present an interesting way to solve the show's lack of specific canon, but it would cost the show a key element of its staying power. The Margeless future of Is Stranger Things is the latest possible future for the Simpsons family, focusing on the splintered relationship between Bart and Lisa in their adult years after Marge has passed away. Even just revisiting this setting for a follow-up episode would present plenty of story opportunities that the regular continuity could never tackle. Plots like Homer the Widower have plenty of storytelling potential, but would fundamentally change the inflexible core of the show's purposefully static but ever-expanding Springfield. By setting that plot in a possible future for one-off episodes, The Simpsons can visit that concept but not be fundamentally attached to it like other deaths that have irrevocably altered character continuity. A full-time jump to this setting presents even more possibilities. Bart and Lisa in A Stranger Things are portrayed around the same age they would be if the characters had aged in real time, presenting familiar characters in a fresh light. It tracks with the audience that has grown up with The Simpsons and would force everything in the exaggerated but emotionally grounded world to have stakes. It could be a harsher satire, fully embracing The Simpsons' sardonic and political worldview, and pushing it in similar ways to. It could also give the creatives room to update any number of characters or have an open field to introduce new faces to Springfield. Even just as a possibility, a fully time-jumped version of The Simpsons is an interesting proposition. The future scene in the season 36 finale would make for a satirically rich update of Springfield. However, it would come at some major cost to the way the show has always operated, and it might not be worth the price. A full-time skip to the future seen in Stranger Things would actually kill off Marge, which could be too big of a blow for the show's regular continuity to handle. One of the big appeals of seeing one-off visits into possible futures for The Simpsons is the safe knowledge that the show will reset back for the next episode. The show's consistent base setting and characters are a big part of what has allowed it to endure for so long and tackle so many stories. This is also what makes episodes like Lisa's Wedding, Future Drama, Barthood, and A Stranger Things interesting in the first place, as they give characters a sense of closure in a way the regular show never can. Seeing a version of the family without the bedrock that Marge provides is an interesting what-if, especially as it explores this new world in service of the core of Bart and Lisa's sibling relationship. Moving the show fully to this timeline would suddenly limit what The Simpsons could do, in a way no other previous story has. A permanent time jump to a future like the one in A Stranger Things would limit The Simpsons in a way it should never be. While the main timeline can't really use Maud Flanders as a character after her death, she wasn't too much of a factor episode by episode. The loss of Marge in the show's primary setting would radically alter the character dynamics, with such a loss likely hovering over every future storyline in some fashion. Marge's death as a permanent part of the show would be a big blow to what makes The Simpsons still work so well after so long. A permanent time jump to a future like the one in A Stranger Things would limit the show in a way it should never be. The creatives behind the scenes on The Simpsons chose decades ago to keep the family in a static space, using the animated medium to ensure the characters didn't age or change too much, even as the rest of the world around Springfield evolved. For some, that static setting has cost the show the natural stakes of canon that they could otherwise get invested in. However, adhering to that approach would have prevented The Simpsons from developing the ability to tell any kind of story, whether that be time-hopping tales of grieving widowers alongside nature documentary parodies. At its best, The Simpsons finds ways to make every standalone future or fantasy episode feel consistent with the central characters and their evolution. The unique things about those episodes are that they can offer possibilities of closure in a way the main show never can. As parodied in Season 36's Bart's Birthday, abruptly tidy endings are antithetical to the Simpsons universe. It's a silly world where anything can happen, so long as the characters feel true to themselves, closure be damned. That's what has kept The Simpsons going for 36 seasons, and will keep it going until at least Season 40. That's why episodes like A Stranger Things are interesting, because they offer the illusion of closure for a single story. The show can then reset and do something else, but it would lose that quality if Marge were gone all the time. A return to the A Stranger Things future would be interesting, especially if it pays off certain teased elements of Lisa's romantic future with Valerie based on the natural developments of the character. However, it shouldn't become the primary setting.